This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime.
Well, what's it like being an international student? We're at the University of Buffalo, which has 5,000 students from all around the world. That's the number that we're looking at for 2016. Will that number go up? Not. That's, of course, figures that we don't have. But what's the experience like? Because the global campus is something that's often spoken about in India as one of the things that we miss, really, to study with students from all parts of the world and experience all kinds of cultures. There's, of course, so much else happening in America. Let me start by asking you, not only have you finished PhD, but you've also recently got a job, and that's quite interesting because jobs has been in focus. Were you ever concerned? Do you ever sort of worry that will I, because jobs has been on the radar?
Yeah, I think the reason why I've been concerned about getting a job is not so much as a matter of immigration or the current administration, but more because jobs in the humanities have been dwindling over the last decade or so. So it's the trend now. People go on the job market several times, so for 2-3 years before they actually land a position, and they're often not tenure track positions or what's called ladder faculty. So it becomes difficult. So I think that is the concern for the humanities, at least. Okay. And so for me, that was a concern whether or not I would get a job. But having landed one, I think it isn't, because they have a very clear policy here in the United States that they do not discriminate. It's part of their hiring policy. So I don't think being an international student would have affected me.
Okay, that's good to know.
On paper.
Okay, on paper. On paper is the good point, because there's a lot of course, buy American, hire American being spoken about.
Well, that's possible, but I don't know if that's necessarily true of academic positions, because universities still remain as bastions of equality or perpetuated inclusiveness. So I would not say that that's necessarily true.
Sure. You're doing your master's. When all this talk about, say, the immigration ban and not having students from certain countries come in, we were told at other universities we visited that students were having trouble focusing. They were not sure where they would go, what would happen. So were these kind of issues sort of things that came up even in classrooms here among your peers?
I think in my classroom, I didn't personally encounter any of the issues, but I do heard, let's say, maybe in other departments, a few of the students were affected in terms of entering the States and returning to their semester studies. But I think overall, we didn't really feel very strongly the impact of the ban.
So is jobs a concern for you at this stage?
Yes, I actually just finished my degree. Just last week I turned in everything. So right now I'm officially starting my job search to just devote all my time in that. And I do think that the new administration could be something that in the background that would maybe helps me to explain some situations when there are times when maybe the hiring process isn't that going smoothly. But I believe just it also depends on a lot of times how I tried and how much effort I put in. And I believe if I tried and there's time that the companies, there's matching positions for me, there's definitely opportunities. So
you're not discouraged. That really is great to know. Great.
Yes.
Still hopeful is the way to be. What about you? How serious is the concern of the job?
Yeah, I'm still working on my dissertation, so at this point, I'm not really ready for the job market yet. However, I mean...
But do you think about it?
Yeah, I did, of course, definitely. And also, I have a lot of conversation with a lot of my international peers. And then there's this concern and anxiety. I mean, I would say, whether you are from those, banned countries or not, I mean, people are talking about... Because people are trying to recall what other thing that he promised before he got elected. And then one of them is the termination of the H-1 program. And so people are really concerned, and we have rumors that says, that's going to happen soon, or at least he's going to hire the bar and all. So we have students, at least my friend, they're all, I think a lot of them are from STEM majors. They do talk about whether or not they should just move to a different country, for example, look for jobs in Canada, for example, or just go back to Asia. So that, I wouldn't say it's a trend yet. However, that conversation started to come up.
You came with the idea to study one thing, and then you sort of decided that there was something else where your heart lay somewhere else. What was that like? Because that's unusual, especially for an Indian student to do, because we are told that, we're doing this thing and then we just pursue it and we stick to it. And many years later, perhaps, then we say, 30 years ago when I had the opportunity and I knew what I wanted to do, maybe I should have. So how unusual was it, and did you have to explain anything back home?
So you're right, it was unusual, and even on my part it was a difficult choice because economics is what I've been studying all my life. So it was a hard choice, but then I realized I wasn't happy with what I was doing, and I wanted to study educational policy at length, and I wanted to study more about it. So I had to make a tough choice, and I did. And the good thing in my case is my parents were very encouraging, and they were the biggest support system I could have. So they told me, do whatever you want to pursue, and it's your life, basically, they told me, and you should be happy with your work by the end of the day. So I had a big support from them, and that helped a lot.
Like you said in the room, you're perhaps the youngest at this table. In fact, not perhaps, you certainly are the youngest at this table, an undergrad student. I have two questions for you. One, when you hear all these conversations around you, do you feel unsettled, or you're thinking, nah, it's just way down the line for me. None of this is a concern for me right now?
I mean, definitely it is a concern right now to many of the undergraduates, I think, or at least within my social circle. Because at some point of our lives, we would definitely want to, approach this problem and, plan it ahead of time and how to resolve it. But for me personally, I think as long as we get our human capital up, and we live up to, what we say we can do, we should be fine. Because the thirst for education in a developing country such as Malaysia is much higher than what scares us, in the future. So as long as you really can prove that you want to be there and to gain as much exposure as you can rather than just in one country, I think you're already doing something pretty great. So quite a lot of the undergraduates, they see it in the same way too, or at least within my social circle. We want to just gain as much human capital as we want.
Just tell the students back home not to be afraid, because even though what has happened in the recent turn of events, the recent elections and the recent incident in Kansas, there's a lot of anxiety. And I work in the International Admissions Office, so we often get emails from the parents asking whether it is safe to send their children. UB as a school is safe, and another important thing here is to remember that the arguments for which this happened, that immigrants are taking our jobs, the argument itself is flawed, because what is happening is just a simple law of demand and supply. These positions are meant for high-skilled workers, and we as graduates or as people who are pursuing higher degrees are just suitable for these jobs. So we are just filling the demand for high-skilled workers. And once we are employed, that's going to spur innovation and actually create more jobs. So it's actually going to create more jobs, and it's actually good for the American economy. And all the students who come here to pursue the higher education, you need to know something about them. A, they have the ability to. B, they are actually interested in learning more. So just imagine the brightest of minds coming from all over the world.
Thank you all so much. It's been a real pleasure talking to all of you, and hopefully we will be back in a short time and then see where everyone is and what top jobs everyone's got. But thank you very much and all the very best.
It's lovely to
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Indian students have been going abroad now to study more than ever before, and one of the top countries of choice has been America. Will that change? Well, there's little sign of that, but there are concerns, and who better than Fred Ball, who is in charge of Education USA, to answer all those questions for us. Thanks so much, Fred, for taking our time.
Thank you.
Now, I heard you earlier speak about diversity, and without doubt, it's one of the most admirable traits, not just of American society, but American education as well. In recent months and years, there's been concern in India on how that's playing out. Let's talk about the immigration ban briefly. And there have been serious concerns on the impact that could possibly have. What can you say to Indian students and their families out there who are perhaps a little concerned? Because there are some reports indicating that students might sort of give America a second thought.
You know, we have over 1 million international students in the United States today, 166,000 from India. 60% of them are graduate students, 75% are studying in the STEM fields, very highly sought after fields. They're of the highest caliber. They're excellent students who come to the United States because they see that the value of an education here is something that will benefit them and their families throughout their whole lives, their professional careers. I think that diversity on campus is something that is ingrained in U.S. higher education, in colleges and universities throughout the country. Schools and communities benefit from having diversity on campus, from ensuring that students have a wide range of opportunities to study. American students benefit from having international students here. It's ingrained into our system.
And you don't see that changing?
I definitely do not see that changing. It's something that we value greatly, and students are hopefully getting a message directly coming from U.S. universities through the You Are Welcome Here campaign that nothing has changed in American higher education. Students from India are more welcome than ever, and faculties throughout the United States are dedicated to their success.
Okay. That's great to know, because you know, it's also coming in the backdrop of a couple of things which, you know, for instance, the race attack that happened in Kansas. There's been a recent report which again made headlines in India of an Indian student who's been found dead. He was from Cornell. There's of course still not saying it could well be an accident. I don't think details are out yet. So there's some sort of unease and sort of insecurities, really. How would you address that?
Of course, safety is a primary concern for campuses throughout the United States. American campuses are safe places. They're places where students can focus on their academic pursuits, where they can develop themselves both personally and professionally, and safety is first and foremost on the minds of policymakers on all campuses. That said, students have excellent experiences on campus in the United States. They are safe places. The reality is one of academic pursuits unlike anywhere else in the world. First-class libraries, laboratories, institutions where students are exposed to the highest caliber faculty, and where the reality of what they're doing is something that is special and will remain that way for their entire lives.
There's of course the focus on education. There's also been concerns about jobs. There's the H-1B visas. There's also Buy American, Hire American. So, you know, for all those Indian students worried about whether they will have an opportunity to work and get the best work experience in the world in America, what would you say?
Well, certainly one of the great advantages of the American higher education system is the possibility to do optional practical training. And of course, nothing has changed in our system in the way things work. Campuses around the country are focused not just on getting numbers of students, certainly not. What they want is students to succeed. They want international students to go home with real skills that will benefit them throughout their lives. And I have no doubt that you know, we're getting the highest caliber of students from India. Students will, with the education they receive in the United States, go home and be able to develop themselves professionally. If they stay in the United States, they will certainly be extremely competitive. If they go to other countries, they will be competitive. The value of an American education is the quality of the education, and that, I think that practical aspect of making sure that students succeed in practice in the job market and not just in theory. It's why alumni networks are so important in the United States.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure. Thank you.
That ended very well.